All right, guys, we are live. Welcome back to another week of Wired Differently, where I am your business designer, Christina Blue Hooper. And I have with me today Mindset Melanie Branch, who specializes in business mindset for neurodivergent entrepreneurs. Woo!
Hola.
All right, guys, the theme for this week's episode is going to be client success, client fulfillment. So, what happens after they give you their contact information for an ebook or a checklist, or they book a call with you, or they buy one of your services? Everything that happens next is client fulfillment. So, that is the name of the topic this go round. So, I think that one's probably one that sabotages people more than I think they realize. Like, I was literally just doing a sales call with somebody yesterday. He thought he had a messaging problem. He thought the issue was, marketing, getting the thing out there, explaining that what it was. But the real issue was he didn't like the thing he was selling.
Yeah.
It wasn't working the way he wanted it to. And so that shows up, right? It shows up in your mindset when you're running around trying to market and sell stuff if you don't fully believe in what you're selling.
Yeah. Or even getting that feeling that so many of us Neuro-Spicies get of like, okay, well, I got to create a new thing because this thing, I've done this thing over and over. So I got to create a new thing. And you see it with coaches a lot too, where they'll launch a new program and a new program and a new program. And you and I have worked on this extensively here at the Neuro-Spicy Academy of coming up with a really solid idea and then watching it evolve, but not deviating from the idea and having to reinvent the wheel over and over and over again, which, we're novelty seeking. I understand it, but it doesn't mean that that's what's going to make you successful long term.
Yeah. I mean, that's why you have to build some of that novelty seeking into your business model. Like, I am guilty of running around launching new things all the time. All the time. I mean, I think at one point I ended up with like 6 or 7 different businesses that I was running all at the same time because launching was so easy for me. But,
and exciting.
I didn't like them. Yeah. Lots of fun, lots of exciting launching, building, educating, doing all this stuff. So the Academy actually served a purpose for me by giving me a place to create that is safe, that is valuable, that gives me those like goalposts and guardrails, because I can create all the time, but the guardrail is, does it fit what they need? So we're always putting the students' needs first. Like, what is it they need help with? What can I create to help with that? So I get challenged, but I get challenged to make their journey faster, easier, and more successful. Yeah. Which is really like that call I was doing yesterday with that guy. We started talking through like, what do your clients actually need? What would benefit them? And it took us all of maybe an hour to redesign all of his products and services to suit that.
Yeah.
And he was like night and day talking about it. Like at the beginning when he talked about his program, he was just like, yeah, I have this thing and it does this stuff. And it's like, trying to sell a salmon peanut butter sandwich to somebody, like, it's not good, right? By the end of the call, he explained the new thing that he was doing. And it's like, warm apple pie straight out of grandma's oven. You know what I mean? Like the way he talked about it and his excitement about it shifted so dynamically.
I'm stuck on a salmon peanut butter sandwich.
I have no idea why my brain does that, but it's that was the first thing that came to mind for no reason. No reason. No idea.
Oh God. I hate it. A really good saying that I have started incorporating, especially on the sales side of business, is, okay, here are the next steps. Here's what you can expect from now on, right? So if we think about it from the biggest sale of all as a coach, which is getting somebody into your high ticket program, you're on that sales call with them back and forth. They figure out that you are the answer to their problems. You figure out that you vibe with them and want to help them with their problems. And you say, okay, I'm sending the PayPal request, or I'm running your credit card right now, whatever it is that you do. And you say, so the next steps are, in your email, in about an hour, you're going to get my onboarding guide, which is 15 questions that I want you to really think about and answer. It's, a marathon. It's not a sprint. And I just need you to have those done by the time we do our first call, which I typically schedule 5 days at least after they sign up with me for a program. I want to give them 5 days to answer my questionnaire, ask me any questions that they're getting, and to really sit and think about what it is that they want to do, because I want to help them through any sort of buyer's remorse that they might get before we have to dive in and do our work. Because I've tried to start like right away with people and be like, okay, we can start coaching tomorrow. But there's still so much friction in their mind mentally where they're not ready to dive in fully for the transformation. So that saying of, okay, so here are the next steps. Here's what you can expect, right? That's so important because that's really all people want to know. They just want to know what's next. What can we expect from you?
And a lot of times people can't answer that because they don't really have a plan for their program. Or it's like, oh, we'll just meet and we'll figure it out. We'll just meet
Yeah.
every single week and we'll just figure it out, whatever's needed. And that is so typical for coaching.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know like you got to experience both sides of that because you actually
Yeah.
had that type of coaching practice before we met. And then you shifted it into one that has a very clear cut promise.
Yeah.
And it changed your sales process. I mean, like everything that you just said, you didn't have that before.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like being able to think through the customer journey and the experience. It does a lot of really great things for your clients, but it also does a lot of really great things for you and your confidence as you're selling it and explaining it and telling people what's coming because you know what's coming.
Yeah.
You know what the outcome is. All right, I'm going to queue up our first question here. So we have a few questions related to this topic.
I have to tell you, I'm so excited right now. I just got off a live on my TikTok. And my best friend in the entire world just messaged me and said she thinks she's going to be able to come hang out for a couple hours. And I haven't seen her in a few years. So I'm fucking freaking out.
Oh, that is exciting though.
I know, it's so exciting. All on a Wednesday. Happy hump day, everybody. Okay. Read the question. What is it?
All right. So our first question is, what is a client success journey and what do you think is the most important part of it?
I mean, the client success journey is the start to finish. What it's like the roadmap, right? Here's where they're starting. They have these problems, these issues, these challenges. They have these goals. We got to get them there, right? So being very clear, especially as a coach or a service provider, of what you do talk about and what you don't talk about, right? We talked about this a couple episodes ago. One of my clients goes, oh, okay, well, do you help with accounting? No, I can help you. I can help you manifest the right accountant for yourself and help you figure out what you need in an accountant, but I'm not going to help you with that shit. Absolutely not. No. Right. So it helps you really stay on track.
Oh, that's a good point to bring up. Like, it's really important to understand your lane and understand what you do and don't do, what you sold and what you didn't sell. And a lot of times we feel like, well, they need help with that. I know something about it. I can help them. I can at least get them started in the right direction, but that's not really what we want to do, right? It would be better to go like, I can tell you a little bit, but I would rather introduce you to somebody that I learned a lot from that's going to help. Like I do that a lot with the mindset stuff. I'm like, look, I can answer a few questions because I spend so much time around Melanie and I've absorbed a little bit through osmosis and her coaching. But like, I'm not the best person to help guide you on your particular scenario. Like, let me go introduce you to her.
Yeah.
So like I do that a lot. And I think I treat the start of the client success journey a little differently than most people do because most people just do it when they buy your product or service.
Yeah.
Do it as soon as they've like raised their hand and said, I want to have a different relationship with you. Whether that's I downloaded an ebook that you have available, I downloaded a little guide, I booked a call with you, just a little discovery call, or I bought maybe a little $7 booklet or bought one of your services. I think all of those are client success because everything that we put out there that we're doing this energetic or financial exchange from, we have a responsibility to make sure it delivers the promise. So we need to treat it like it's actually valuable and not a disposable lead magnet.
Yeah.
That's probably one of my big
Buddy is talking about lead magnets right now. I'm having a conversation with a mutual on TikTok who has a new coaching program. She's been a coach for about a year. And you know me, I'm nosy as hell. I want to know everything. Tell me everything that you could possibly think that I would ever be interested in. I promise I want to know more. And we were talking about our goals for this year. And I said, my goal is to grow the Neuro-Spicy Academy and to grow my coaching business so that my one-on-ones are now $20,000 instead of $6K. What does that look like for you? And she said, I am growing my email list to 1,000. And I said, that's fantastic. What are you using to grow? And she said, oh, I have a new lead magnet. And she told me what it was. She had launched the lead magnet April 1st. We're on April 11th right now. She's already gotten like 50 people to sign up to her list with this lead magnet. And I was like, bitch, let's put a date on when you want to hit 1,000 on your list. Cause it looks like things are going a lot faster than you are probably thinking about them in your mind. So let's make sure we're prepped and ready. And that's what a client success plan does, is make sure that you can follow through with the stuff that you said you can do. And this is what everybody forgets, is all the automations that you have in your business. like even with a Calendly link, right? When I say, hey, go book a clarity call with me, see if this is right for you. Every little message that they're going to get in their emails from Calendly is going to have a message of like, here's what to expect, blah, 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 da, 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 da. So really being intentional with your tone and your goals and again, what they can expect.
Yeah. I'm really trying to filter them down either up or down, right? It's like, you got my lead magnet. Do you need more help? Do you just need to work on this lead magnet for a little while? Like, have a good time, enjoy it, get some momentum. All of your lead magnets should be creating momentum. They should be moving someone forward, at least in a tiny way, right? Like, it's not necessarily going to be this like game changing, it set their whole trajectory on a new path lead magnet. It might be for some people. Who knows?
Yeah. More
but
power
it should
to
be moving them forward a little bit, right? At least a little. If you're not doing that, then you're just like slapping things together, especially in the world of AI now. It's so easy. So easy for people to put little ebooks or little checklists. So we've got a lot of like low quality lead magnets flooding the internet right now.
Yeah.
And that's the last thing you want. It damages your credibility with the client. If they download something and they're like, this is some garbage you slapped together with ChatGPT in like 50 minutes. Why did I do this? Yeah. And last thing
it's
you
so
want
true. And especially nowadays, people are just taking a little clip from a webinar that they did and throwing that out into the world and advertising it on Instagram. Because anytime I'm scrolling Instagram and somebody's lead magnet comes up, right? It's any entrance into anybody else's world that is or is not my competition, quote unquote. I want to know what sort of emails they're sending. I want to know what sort of lead magnets they're putting out in the world. I'm going to scope out every single one of them. I probably spend in every 7-day week about 2 hours doing people's lead magnets or reading people's lead magnets or watching their things, all that sort of stuff, with no intention of ever becoming one of their clients. This is strictly just market research for me, which is fine. I'm sure people do that to me. But what I'm really noticing is it really is just a little chunk of something that they're already offering and they're putting out there, right? That the best lead magnet is something that is already in your program, right? Like I use the energy optimization guide all the time because that's the first thing I send my clients when we start working together. I say, these are the questions you need to ask yourself every single day.
Yeah. And that's one of the best ways to do a lead magnet because it's already aligned with the program.
Yeah.
So it's a logical next step for their journey. And that's really what a client success journey is all about. It's like, what is the first thing? What's the logical next step? Not just the one that you want them to take, but what are they going to need? When we get to here, they're going to be like, now what do I do? Right. So it's like they do the energy optimization guide. They do all that. They track it all. And they're like, now what does this mean? What do I do? I have some data. I don't know how to read the data. I don't know what to do with the data. I don't know what adjustments to make. What makes sense? Booking one-on-one time with Melanie. It is a logical next step because what they need is help interpreting the information. Who better to help interpret than the person who created the thing, right? So it's like, it's a logical next step. Let's queue up our next question over here. I love this one. How do I make sure my clients feel seen, heard, and understood? Understood being a huge one.
Huge.
Huge.
My favorite question to ask people, whether they're currently my clients, whether they're past clients, whether they're potential clients, or they're just people in my orbit, is what does that look like? Because I need you to paint a picture for me. If you say, I'm stressed out every day, I can't keep track of, or like I can't keep on top of all the chores in my house and on top of all my clients that I have, and what does that look like for you? Because what I can envision is that, a woman with a baby on her hip and an apron on and stirring the sauce and a dog running around her feet and, clothes all over the house, all that sort of stuff. But to them, it could mean something totally different. It could just mean that like, they didn't get to go to their kids' play and they really wanted to, right? So having somebody paint a picture, because I used to be like, oh, well, if I don't understand what somebody's saying right away, I will feel like an idiot if I ask them to explain themselves further. When in all actuality, the most successful CEOs and business company and just all those people in the world, they ask you to explain it to them like they're a kindergartner.
Yep.
Just put it out there. Tell me what you're talking about. Paint the fucking picture. So that's what I say to make people feel seen and heard and understood, is let them explain themselves, take notes, regurgitate it in your own words so that you know you're on the same page. Because like you said earlier, what I want for a client and what a client wants for themselves can be two different things.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say for me, probably the biggest thing that I do is I've learned to slow down. Still something I'm working on a lot, but I talk really fast. I think really fast, and it's easy for me to be like way far ahead. I'm like 100 miles into the future, and they're like still sitting here, not even got started yet. Right. So that's a big one for me, is just to slow down. I mean, like that blueprint workshop that I'm doing right now, my little optimistic self was like, we'll get done with this in about 4 weeks. No, it's probably gonna be more like 10 to 12. That's how much I underestimated or overestimated or whatever. I thought we could get through it so fast, but we had to go slow. And then the people in the workshop asked me to go even slower. You know, so it's like I'm asking all the time, like, what's the experience been so far? Is there anything I can do to improve this? Is there anything that would, make this easier, better, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And I'm taking their feedback. Like we even added extra sessions just to review the previous sessions, just to stop and slow down and review. And so like, that's probably been the biggest one, is just slowing down, trying to slow down my thoughts, trying not to interrupt, trying to, take pauses and breaths and be like, how has that hit you so far? Do you have clarity on what we've said so far? How does that feel at this point? And slow.
No longer saying, does that make sense? Every single person that has ever watched a show or ever will watch a show, never, ever, ever cut yourself down like that by saying, does that make sense? Say, do you understand what we've covered so far? Put the, what's the word I'm looking for? Put the responsibility of understanding on the person who's listening to you and not on you as the person explaining it. Do you understand what we've covered so far?
Well, and you get different responses, because ever since you said that, I've started kind of changing it. And when I would say, does that make sense? It would be like, yes, that makes sense. Because like, one, it's just an automatic response to just say, yes, that makes sense. Two, it may make total sense, but you don't understand it, or you don't understand how you're going to apply it to you. Like, yes, I understand the concept, but I don't understand how I'm going to apply it to me. So when you say like, do you have clarity on that? Or do you understand what I've said so far? Now they start saying like, I think I do, but I want to clarify. Like, let me, and they'll like reiterate it back at me. And then I'm like, yeah. And it makes me happy because it hit. Yeah. So many times I'm talking and it feels like I'm just talking over people's heads sometimes. And I'm like, okay, come down, use simpler language, say it again. And like I default to repeating, and they're like, no, I understand the words that you said. Yeah. But I don't have the clarity on how I'm going to apply those to me. So I've started getting way better conversation since I've done that. And just in the last week, it's been a big shift, and I really like it.
It's the eclipse.
Yeah. Life has been weird with that eclipse, man. I don't know.
No, I know. It's been really, really, really wild. Even me as a person who's like well aware of everything that could happen for the eclipse and how the energy can be all over the place. And my dumbass getting a new phone during a Mercury retrograde eclipse. What was I thinking? Anyways, it's fine. It's fine. We're okay. But really understanding that it's time to cut the cord with anything, anyone, any idea, any structure that is not pushing you forward. We don't have to entertain people who are committed to misunderstanding us, which is hard. I remember being a kid and being like, I could pick out the one person in a friend group that didn't like me, and I would just want to attach myself to them and make it so that they liked me. And now it's really just like, you can come with me. I'm a Taurus. I'm a bull. I have a direction. I have a path that I am forging ahead. You can hop on, come with me, but you can't tell me which way to turn.
Yeah.
That's my rule. This is where I'm going. You're welcome to come party along with me, because I promise you I'm going to have a good time, but you can't dictate the directions. It's where I'm going. So, I mean, maybe that's part of making a client feel seen, heard, and understood, is really communicating, even if it's just a free lead magnet or you got them to sign up for your high ticket coaching, really understand what they're going to get out of this, what they can expect from you, or, the tool or the resource that they got. And, reiterating, I created this tool so you would get this transformation, right? Because we have to keep the spotlight on that person, on the client, as much as we want the spotlight to be on ourselves.
Well, I think that's a really good point too. That you want to set the stage for the experience that they're going to expect after they buy from you, which gives us freedom to actually be a little bit unmasked and to be a little bit ourselves and unhinged, even in like our marketing and our how we network, how we respond, because they need to meet the person they're going to work with every day.
Yeah.
You're not going to just suddenly stop, like I do all my marketing and I don't appear autistic or ADHD, but then you work with me for like 3 months, 6 months, a year, and I'm not going to be able to hide it from you for that long. Or I'm going to be real exhausted if I'm trying. So, I mean, it gives you permission to be yourself. And it makes everything so much freaking easier when you're marketing, because it's a benefit to them. You're showing them who they're going to meet, who they're going to work with. And if they don't like that, they shouldn't buy from you.
Yeah.
It's
so true.
Get our next question going here. All right. I am launching a new service right now. What should I do to make sure it really makes a difference for my clients? Ooh, I like that one.
Market research. Use the poll feature on your Instagram stories. Put messages out on your Instagram stories, your TikTok stories, YouTube, put it everywhere, put it in your emails and say, hey, I'm doing market research for a blah, 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 blah. If you have 20 minutes, can I bend your ear in a Zoom call? Like really get in there, because, I've done this with different topics when I was getting ready to launch my group program a year ago. And I said, out of these 3 topics, and I went to ChatGPT and made them all sound sexy and whatnot, right? But they're all things that I'm an expert in. And I said, out of these 3 topics, what would you be most interested in learning more about? And I swear to God, the topic that I thought nobody was going to be interested in won out. And the topic that I thought everybody was going to want to have, nobody even voted for. So you've got to do your research, and then you have to work on the messaging. The messaging is everything. And sometimes the messaging doesn't even reflect what the actual service is, right? Because we get stuck, especially in the marketing world, we get stuck trying to describe the product instead of trying to describe the experience.
Yeah.
And you're a recovering marketer. You know all about this. And as well as anybody else, there are so many coaches out there that are fabulous marketers and terrible coaches.
Yeah, or they hire fabulous marketers. And it was like, well, that was one thing that person I was working with the other day was looking at, was he had, people that were helping him and guiding him and doing stuff. But the problem, he couldn't get the messaging dialed in because they didn't fully understand the product on the back end, and because he didn't fully like the product on the back end. So you can market it, great. We can make fancy words, we can fix the messaging, but you're still not going to be able to sell it. Mm-hmm. Right? Because you got to know what it actually is. You got to know what it's trying to accomplish. You got to know what the goal is. Market research is fantastic. 100% agree with that. Anything that you can do to talk to humans ahead of time. But once you're in like launch mode, one of the best things you can do is to communicate to them that you are launching a new thing. Don't try and pretend like, oh, I've been doing this thing for 20 years and it's amazing and we've got it super dialed in. And it's just like an unrealistic pressure for yourself. Yep. It is okay if it's a little rough. It's okay if some things need to, change and tweak and adjust and whatever. Just let people know. Some people are into that. Some people are like, yes, I will be the first person. Absolutely. Like, I love being the first person for people's programs.
Yeah.
100%. Like, A, it's usually cheaper, which is nice because you're getting a discount. B, they're super invested. So they're taking your feedback. They're making sure that you get the result, right? Later on down the line, when they've done this thing 100 times, they're going to be like, well, we know it works. So this is what you need to do. Instead of being like, I don't know if that would work for me.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you get to have more feedback. You get to know that they're paying attention. You get more, more access usually to the person launching the service. So make that a selling point. Don't make it a weakness. Like, oh, this is the first time I've done it. And it's not going to be as good. And it's not going to be like as polished. And it's going to be like, who cares? Don't worry about that.
It's really an energy too. Like when I used to work in restaurants, I opened multiple restaurants, some that were corporate and then some that were like single guy ownership, whatever we would call that. And the vibe and the sparkle and the sizzle that comes with a new offer and a new it's exciting. People want to be a part of that. So, you can say, oh, well, I've been speaking on this topic for 20 years, but this is a brand new thing I'm launching. Like if you think about Tony Robbins size coaches, right? I would much rather go to a brand new Tony Robbins never before been done seminar than I would the one that he does every single year.
Yeah. Same.
Novelty. Imagine that.
Yeah, sometimes I like going to the repeats every so often just to see if anything has changed.
Yeah.
But most of the time, no. Like I would rather go into something brand new. It's a lot more exciting. So I'd say just the biggest thing is communication. When you're launching a new service and you want to make sure that it's making a difference, have a clear promise for the service. If you buy this, if you opt in, if you whatever, this is the expectation. This is what's going to happen. This is what it does for you. And this is roughly the, investment you're going to need. Physical, time, mental, emotional, all of that, right? Because everybody invests. Everybody has basically 3 energy sources or 3 investment things that they have. You have your physical energy, your mental energy, and your emotional energy. You need to make sure that people understand the time investment, the money investment in the physical realm. The emotional investment is it's going to be like if they're doing a call with you, they get emotional sometimes, right? Like that is a high emotional investment. You are not going to do a 90-minute call with Melanie and then go run around and go party and have a good time with your kids. You're going to need to go take a break. You're going to need like 30 minutes to an hour at least just to go reset. So making sure they understand some of that. The mental investment, like when people come to my workshop, it's 4 hours of braining.
Yeah.
I'm going to take all of your brain calories for the day. You have no mental calories left. Take it easy the rest of the day. Do low brain activities. Right. And being able to tell people things like that, some people are going to be like, ooh, that sounds exciting. Or like, oh my God, no, that sounds horrifying. Please, no, I'm not going to get on a 90-minute call with you and cry. Or a 4-hour call where you take all my brain cells. No, thank you. Right. And that's good. Because if the answer is no, thank you, we don't want to waste our time.
Yeah.
This is the experience. If you don't want it, bye. So communication. And then after the sale, just talking with people, check-in points. Part of your client success plan needs to be check-in points.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, we're going to do a couple of things and then I'm going to check in, or after every single call, I'm just going to be like, how did that sit with you? Do you feel confident in your next steps? Something, just regular check-in so that you can pivot and adjust.
Yeah.
Like that actually dovetails really nicely into this next question. So how often should I be communicating with clients to manage their expectations and keep them happy?
I mean, that depends on you and your program. My one-on-one clients hear from me at least once a week because I message everybody on Sunday night and say, all right, take a few minutes. What's your intention for the week? Here's my intention as your example. But some of them I'm talking to on the Marco Polo app multiple times a day. Because I want to get in there with you. I want to, put on my protective gear and get into the trenches and help you fucking figure out what is going on, where your roadblocks are, why they're happening, how can we get through them? And sometimes that's messy, sometimes it's fun, but I'm able to go through it with them. Other coaches, I know that they won't even respond to people's messages on the weekends and stuff. So it really depends on the coach or the service provider.
Yeah. Well, no, like you've really integrated your like personal and your business. So you're kind of bouncing around all day long with really healthy boundaries in both. So you may take like 2-3 hours out in the middle of the day and go use that for personal time and then come back and do business. So you work on nights and weekends sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's because you're balancing your energy. You're taking the time off. You're protecting your boundaries. So y'all, when you hear us talk about working nights and weekends, we have different boundaries than most people do. We put those things in place so that we can intermingle. So nights and weekends is not a nasty word. You can work on nights and weekends. I prefer to work on the weekends sometimes.
Sometimes it just feels good. The rest of the people on earth aren't working. So it's like there's more energy that we can put into our work.
Same. Like I would gladly just take like a Thursday, Friday off and work on the weekend. Like that just feels better to me. I like it.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind as we're talking. But back to communicating with clients, like, you know me, I like to give people until you know better, do this kind of version. So I would say that a minimum is weekly.
Yeah.
Right. Like a minimum is weekly. Like you should be communicating no matter what they buy in almost any scenario that I can think of off the top of my head right now. Weekly is minimum viable communication. So if it's a one-on-one service, you should be communicating with them. If you're coaching, you're at least meeting with them weekly most of the time. If you're not meeting weekly, maybe you're doing biweekly or monthly coaching, you should still be checking in weekly. If they bought a membership program, they should hear from you at least once a week.
Yeah.
Why not? Right? Like it's an email, text message, something, even in a group program or a membership program, that you should still be sending something out to your membership at least once a week.
Yeah.
If you're doing a service like website design or something like that, you should be doing, like, maybe it's a service that takes 6 months to deliver. You should be checking in weekly. Right?
Yeah.
So I would say until you know better, at least do weekly. If you can do more communication usually doesn't hurt. But
Yeah.
you just have to balance, like, how much is too much for you or your team as you're growing to do, right? Like, where do you start actually hurting your profit margins by over communicating?
Well, and the method of which you're communicating, because you and I don't do phone calls.
No.
I want to see your face so I can understand what you're saying, or I want you to fucking text me. But I'm not going to get on the phone with anybody. I just don't have that in me. But it's nothing for me and you to be messaging each other back and forth and go, can we just sit down and talk about this and get on a Zoom so that, we can do the other things that we need to do while doing that? Because I'm a big multitasker. Like, I want to be cleaning up my kitchen while I'm talking to somebody because it helps my brain focus more, right? So doing it in a way that works for you and being clear with people about the methods of, like it says in my coaching contract, the methods that we will talk.
Yeah. Like, I've had clients that insist on calling me sometimes. I'm like, I can't, right?
Yeah,
so
it
I've
doesn't work.
started texting back, like, I'm not in a place to talk on the phone right now.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I'm not in a physically place where I can talk on the phone. It means, like, I am mentally not in a space where I can talk on the phone right now.
Yeah.
I have to have the right kind of energy for phone calls because it does require so much extra effort to sit there and listen. And phone calls are rough. They can voice note me because it'll transcribe it.
Yeah.
So I can still see the transcription now on the text messages, even when people voice note. So it's like, voice note me. We'll just voice note back and forth, or we'll get on a Zoom and we'll be okay. Yeah. So I would say communicating at least once a week, and, managing their expectations and keeping them happy is more than just communicating. It's making sure you're talking about, here's what we've done, here's what we're doing, here's where we're at in the overall. Yeah. Right. So it's like, we've done these 3 sessions, which means awesome. You've made progress on this. Next week's session is this. And as a reminder, this is our big goal, right? Like, and we're making progress. We're 3 steps closer, almost 4, to where we were trying to get you, right? So making
that's
sure
important too. Reminding them we were here, now we're here, and we are continuing to reach and strive for getting here, right? Because we know our neuro-spicy brain likes to hold on to the negative input instead of the positive stuff. So reminders, right, of like, here's where we started, here's the ultimate goal, here's where we are on the timeline.
Yeah. And you can let them know kind of some other things maybe to expect. Like, we usually, with almost every student that we're talking to, we let them know to expect a troll. And I know you guys, if you've been watching the show across some of the past episodes, we've had trolls live on the show. So we tell everybody trolls are coming. Trolls are coming. So, like, we know this is something that's going to potentially upset them down the line. Like, they're going to hit that point. And when they do, we want them prepared. So as you do the same program, like, make note of some things that are happening, some good things, some bad things. How can we shift some of the bad into not being so bad? How can we highlight positives? How can we celebrate small victories? Like, I love the celebration post of I got a troll, because it's like, hell yeah, you're doing the right things. You got a troll. Good stuff, right? So setting those expectations like that on the good and the bad to expect. Like, it's not just what you're doing, but maybe some of the other, like, things that happen as a result of what you're doing.
Yeah.
I think all of those are fantastic.
Yeah.
Right? This is another good question here. So how do I handle it if a client wants to cancel early? I actually got a really great email from somebody about this the other day that kind of stuck in my head. Shayna, the community cultivated person, she sent an email, and it was talking about how not all cancellations are cancellations. Sometimes they're graduations.
Yeah.
Because, like, somebody might actually get a benefit faster than you expected. So maybe you had a 6-month program, 4 months in, they've graduated, they worked ahead, they did the hard work, they're good. And they're like, I feel like I'm good. I feel like I'm good. I don't think I need to be here anymore. Like, she was sharing a story of, she helps with community retention. And she was sharing a story of how her client got to 97% retention. And they had held that for like a year or something like they'd had it for a while. And then that meant they canceled the program, they canceled the membership, but they didn't need it anymore.
Yeah.
They had gotten everything they could from it. So sometimes it's a graduation, and that is okay. And I think it's a good thing to celebrate those. Sometimes it is an actual cancellation, though. And there's so many reasons. There's so many reasons, right? There's personal reasons. There could just be life going on. Life is happening, and they just don't have the energy or the money or anything to put into this program anymore. You could hold them to the financial commitment, but that's kind of a douchey thing to do. Like, why would you? Like, they have life going on. What is happening? Another scenario is they're not a right fit. They don't belong here. They're not getting the results. This is something they thought they needed, but it is not what they actually thought, actually needed. Maybe you realize it. Maybe they realize it. Whoever figures it out first. I think it's, handle it the best way possible. Your goal is to leave them as a raving fan, even if they cancel. Raving fans can be people that cancel. They're like, I really wasn't getting the benefit from this. It wasn't what I was expecting, but man, they handled it so good. I reached out. She was very cooperative. She canceled everything for me. She wished me well. She recommended some other resources that might be more my speed. It was such a positive experience. It wasn't my thing, but yeah, you should go buy it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's you want to leave a raving fan, even in the case that you sold something to somebody that doesn't need it.
Yeah. I mean, the only time I've ever been let go by a client, and it's also one of the punctuations as to why I don't work with men anymore. I was working with a guy and his wife separately. They were both entrepreneurs. The wife originally signed up with me, and then he was like, okay, well, I'm always around for the calls. I want you to coach me too. And by the third call, it was a 3-month program, and they paid by each month. But so 1, 2, 3, we had 4 calls in 1 month, and then he just started ghosting me, which is strange because I was actively working with his wife. I would see him behind her on the calls with the wife, but he was working through something and would get back to me. I said, okay, whatever. And I found out that I had, quote unquote, his words, not mine, pushed him too hard, and he wasn't ready to look at the parts of himself that were holding him back in his business. He was into Bitcoin and trying to train people on Bitcoin, or what's it called? The whole thing, not Bitcoin's the company. That's what we've been back. What's it called?
Crypto.
Thank you. I would have never pulled that one. Okay. So what ended up happening is because he was kind of ghosting me in between, he paid for the second payment, but never finished with the coaching. And he kind of alluded to, oh, well, I can pay the third payment if you want, but I'm not going to continue coaching. And I said, let's just leave it as it is. And, we left it on very good terms. Wouldn't you know, she's not with him anymore though. Oh, surprise, surprise. But it's just one of those things where I learned a lot from it too, of okay, I had already been leaning towards only working with women or AFABs or LGBTQI plus community. But that really was the nail in the coffin for me, that I was like, okay, so I am a pusher. Okay, I do want a person that's on a specific journey to sign up for my coaching, because I'm not going to push any less.
Yeah.
So use it as a way to identify your ever-growing goalposts and guardrails,
Yep. Yeah, that's absolutely a way to do it. And it's even though you realize this wasn't a target client for you anymore, you still handled it well. You still left a raving fan by the end of the thing. You handled it the way you should. So I think I like that. I like that. So yeah, I mean, we can have really strict cancellation policies, but they only hurt you in the long run. Right? If you force someone to pay for something that they're not getting benefit from, they're not going to like you, they're not going to recommend you, it's not going to build your reputation. You're probably not even going to get the payments. You can send the invoices. It doesn't mean you'll collect. You can threaten them. You can send lawyer notices. But really, is that where you want to put your energy? I would rather put my energy finding the person to replace them and wishing them on their merry way. Right?
Yeah.
So I like that. I think that's a really good question. All right. So this is a related question. So what do I do if I realize I can't or shouldn't work with this client after they've paid? So instead of them canceling, you're deciding that you don't want them. You shouldn't be helping them. They're not a good fit for you. How would you handle that?
I keep payment for services rendered and would refund anything. So say it's my 6-month program and that's $6,000. If they pay the $6,000 up front and we never even go through coaching and nothing happens, here's your money back. Thank you very much. If they pay $6,000 up front and we go through 1 month of it and this is terrible and this is awful, this is no good, and they're not being malicious about it, right? Which I can't imagine a scenario where that would happen. I would refund the money of what we have not done together.
Yeah. Well, this would be you decide to fire them.
Oh, no. If I have to fire you, I'm keeping the money.
There's different ways to handle that. And sometimes it depends on why you're choosing to fire the client. and at what point in the relationship you're choosing to fire. So it's like, if you're 5 months into a 6-month coaching contract and they decided to be a royal, and were rude to you, rude to your staff, crossed lines, crossed boundaries, and you want to hold them to the full contract amount. You're fully within your rights to do that. Go for it. Cool. Now, you still have a lot of the same things that we talked about before. Like, you might not leave a raving fan, but like in this case, you might not care to, right?
Yeah.
Now, there is also the, like, it's not malicious. You just realize you can't help, right? So it's like, they didn't cross a line. They seem okay, but like where they're trying to go and what I'm skilled at helping people do is not the same thing. Like, I've run into that a lot before. Like, I design businesses that scale and grow and make lots of money. I don't do good at designing businesses that coast to retirement. So like, I've had people hire me and they're like, I want to grow my business and I want to do all this stuff back when I was a marketer. And it's like $5,000 a month retainers to grow their business. And then they started getting leads and like, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off. We only need like 1 or 2 clients a year. And I'm like, why didn't you tell me that?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. I'm not a good fit for you. If that's all you want to do, you just want to give somebody some money to keep the little clients coming in. You just need like an assistant or a VA. You don't need like a marketing agency and a whole big plan and like all this stuff happening.
Yeah.
Like, so, in those cases, I would realize that like, no, I'm not a good fit for you. I'm going to cancel this contract. I'm going to make some introductions. If I can, I'll help you find the next person and I'll help communicate to them what they need to know. But we're going to part ways because I'm not the best fit for you. And so in those cases, I usually will do refunds and I'll, make it as easy as I can for them to transition into something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've only had a few of those over the years. If you're doing your marketing and stuff right, then you don't get too many of those usually because you're saying what you're doing. That's why when we teach that PAM, it's such a powerful tool because it's like, even if you're targeting 2s and 3s, you're targeting 2s that have the potential and will be 4s and 5s. Like, even if you never intervened, they have what it takes to get to be 4 to 5. You're just helping them do it faster, easier, and with a greater chance of success. So if you're doing your marketing the right way, you will have fewer people that come in being like, this is what I want, right?
Yeah. That's true.
I tell people straight up all the time. I say, if your goal is to just make $5,000 or $10,000 a month, don't work with me. Don't spend your money and your time on me because I'm going to push you too hard. We're not aligned. I'm working with people that are trying to hit $250 a year, $250 a month, like sky's the fucking limit, right? But being open and honest about that is imperative.
Yeah, same. Like, I'm working with people that'll own multiple different businesses, have multiple different investment pathways. They're not going to just be like sitting here chugging away at designing logos or producing podcasts or whatever for the rest of their life. They're going to grow and be much bigger than that. If that's not a goal that they have, then I would struggle to help. It's not that I couldn't, which I think is really important. It's not that I couldn't, but it's not what I'm designed for.
Yeah.
So I'm not the best resource. It would be better for me. Like, if I'm generating a lot of those leads, it would be better for me to find someone who is and to create a partnership with them and be like, look, I'm generating a lot of leads for this type of client that I can't help. This is the person you love working with. Can I just work something out with you? Give me 10% of everything I send your way. Cool. Or a like $100 finder's fee for everybody I send your way, or, so you have a lot of opportunity in those types of situations.
Yeah.
All right, next question we've got up here. How do I effectively onboard new clients to set the tone for a successful partnership? Ooh, that's a big one. Now, you talked about this a little bit already. I know you kind of hinted on some of what you do when you're onboarding a new person into your 6-month coaching. Do you want to dive into that a little bit more and kind of answer that question?
Yeah, I created a list of questions that are, multi-part and whatnot. And I get it. I have ADHD and autism. I despise paperwork, but I also don't like journaling, but I'm a huge proponent of writing things down. So I send over this onboarding guide and they get a couple days to fill it out. And there are some questions on it that go pretty deep and can kind of shock my new clients with what their answers are to it, because we have to establish a baseline. I have to know what your goals are for 6 months from now, what your goals are a year from now, what your goals are 10 years from now, throughout the process to make sure you can see your growth and we're paying attention to your growth. This is where you started, this is where you are. And to also get the train back on the tracks when we start going off on a tangent here and there. So I send over my onboarding guide. I send over the link to my Marco Polo, and I send over my course Routines at Work, and I send the enhanced energy optimization guide, and there's directions on all of it. And I start checking in with them on Marco Polo and say, did you get to your questions? Do you have any questions? Or I actually just say, what are your questions? Because 50% of my clients just barrel through that Marco Polo door and they go, hell yeah, I get to message you all the time. This is so exciting. And the other 50% are like, I don't want to bother you, but I have a question. So I'm really trying to establish right away if they're going to be pro talking to me on Marco Polo or if they're going to be a little afraid of it, so that I know how to get them engaged in that platform. Because Marco Polo is so incredibly helpful for the people that I'm working with, because secretly it gets you more comfortable on camera. Oh God, all my clients are going to know this now. It's fine. It's fine. It gets you more comfortable on camera. It helps me get a view of your energy throughout the day as an energy healer, to be able to see, okay, they're in the kitchen a lot, or hey, they're in the bathroom, or hey, they're doing this, or hey, they're doing this, or hey, they're doing this, la, 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 la. So I get to really know what's going on in their life so I can serve them best. Like, it serves so many roles. So, the more information you give them and the more communication you can have in the beginning, the easier it is to establish the proper bond for each individual client.
Yeah, I think that's really important. It's like, you're not only communicating, like, you're giving multiple things that they need to do. You're giving them written work, you're giving them videos they need to do. You're giving them lots of different ways to communicate and learn to communicate. And I love that. And what you said, communicating a lot more in the beginning is absolutely crucial. So like, earlier we talked about communicating once a week. When somebody's a brand new client, you might be communicating once a day for like the first 7 days or 10 days. And then you can dial back to once a week. Now, one of the ways I talk about this is a triage phase and a maintenance phase. Whenever somebody first comes to you and they first, hire you or opt in or do the thing, they are really scared that they made a bad decision. Yeah. They're hopeful. They're excited. Like, I like to call it excitified. I heard that word ages ago and I absolutely love it. They're excited and terrified at the same time.
Excitified.
Right? So you really have to work on keeping them calm, helping them understand, helping them, feel confident in the decision that they just made. But at some point that'll shift, right? Yeah. They'll be like, I made the right choice. This is exactly where I need to be. I'm getting the value. I'm good. When that shift happens, now you're kind of in that maintenance phase. They don't need as much support. There's not as much self-doubt. They're not questioning their decisions as much. They understand what to do. They understand what their responsibilities are, how to get a hold of you if they have questions. Like, they understand all this stuff, and now they're comfortable. They're relaxed. It's kind of like when you go to somebody's house for the first time and you're like really on, you're really anxious and apprehensive and you're not sure what to touch. You're not sure what is okay to do and where to sit and like whose chair's whose. But then, like, the 10th, 15th time you go over to somebody's house, you know where the sodas are. You're like, hey, I'm going to go get a drink. Okay, yeah, cool. On your way to the fridge. Right? Yeah. You get comfortable. Once they get comfortable, you can relax a little bit as their host. And how you communicate and what you do changes.
Yeah.
Comfort is it's so funny that you say this, because I was just filming a TikTok before we got on here. Somebody commented on one of my posts about, change is necessary for a variety of reasons, but they were like, but it's hard because if I make a choice and I have to make a change, and change is uncomfortable. And I literally responded with, is it uncomfortable or is it unfamiliar? Because people that stay in the same position for a long period of time get bed sores. So for me, staying still and not moving forward seems a lot more painful than going into the unknown.
Yeah.
Is it familiar or is it comfortable? Remember, those are two different things.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this. All right, next question. Let's see. When can I ask for a testimonial, referral, or build a case study?
As soon as you guys are cool together. What are you as soon as there's a major transformation? I'm telling my people all the time. I even reach out to clients that I don't even work with anymore, and I'm like, I take testimonials in all sorts of forms: written, video, email, all that sort of shit. Ask for the testimonial if you guys are working together and it's going good all the time, because people just don't remember to do it. It's rare that I work with somebody who is like, oh yeah, I give reviews of people all the time, right? So just remind people, I take testimonials and however you feel like it.
Yeah. I think a good spot is after they get out of that triage phase and they've hit that comfort zone. So like if you're intentionally designing your client success plan, this is what we recommend, right? Like once this happens, we want to do this. You can bake in your touch points for testimonials, referrals, case studies. So with testimonials and referrals, I like to do that after the triage stage is the first point. because like they still remember all the anxiety. They're feeling pretty confident. That shift happened in their confidence level. So it's a good time to get a testimonial or a referral.
Mhm.
Now, referrals, though, might be a little tricky. It's great to get testimonials right there, but referrals you might not get until closer to the end of the program. Now, I usually don't wait until the end. So like if you're doing a 6-month program and now you might be parting ways, then I would probably do that in month 5.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, you know, we're wrapping up. We only got a few more sessions together. If you know anybody else that could benefit from this, I'm going to have an open spot in my program. I would love to fill it with somebody that, you know, is like you and that has similar goals and aspirations to you. So that would be a great point to ask for a referral. With case studies, you would do that the whole time, right? So you're building the case study by capturing data points. So if you said that, like, here's the journey with these different milestones, at this point in the journey, I would expect to see this, this, and this.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to document that if I do. At this point, I would expect to see, you know, whatever. I'm going to see this and this shift. Like in your 6-month program, you might at the end of every month see if there's any case study worthy notes that you want to put down. And then you can still ask for those testimonials to put into the case study. And then you can do a retrospective at the end of the 6 months or whatever your program is. And you can ask somebody like, hey, I would love to build a quick little case study. You had such amazing progress over this. Like I've been tracking it the whole time and like, look at this, look how awesome this is. Right. And you've probably been sharing that data with them the whole time anyway. So they already kind of know, like, I want to build a case study with you. Can I do a quick little interview with you? And then you could do like a more detailed interview and you can reminisce over the journey and have that together. 2 friends that have made it to the end of 6 months together, reminiscing over the experience, and have a really cool video for your case study.
Yeah.
So lots of
It's also important to remember, and we said this saying the other day and you liked it when I said it. And we talk about students like this in the Neuro-Spicy Academy. When you're sharing a testimonial, you can always say, this person was comfortable sharing their story, but not their identity. And I don't know about you, 10 to 20% of my clients make me sign an NDA, which means I'm not allowed to talk about them specifically, but sometimes they have such incredible breakthroughs. So if you ever hear me saying they and not she or anything like that, no names or anything, that's somebody that made me sign an NDA. And I think it's so cool. I'm like, yeah, NDA, absolutely. Let's do it. I won't tell anybody any of your shit. But if I do, they just won't know it's you. So, you know, making sure too that, and I've seen a lot of people doing this just in their marketing, like on Instagram stories, sharing client wins for the week, right? The client T, client J, client L, la, 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 la. And that way people are seeing your case studies in real time.
Yeah. And your clients love it when you're bragging on them most of the time. As long as you're not crossing any lines, they know you're doing it. You've set that expectation. You ask for permission. Like, so one of the things that you do really well all the time, you're like, you know, somebody will post something in a Slack group and you're like, can I have your permission to post that on my social? And they're like,
can I share this with my community?
Yeah.
That's what I say. Could I share this screenshot with my community? And most people are like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's like, ask for permission. It's not that hard. You can do it pretty easy peasy. I know even people like me who get stressed out by that kind of thing and don't have Melanie's just walk up and do it attitude. Like, it's still pretty easy once you get used to it, right? Everything gets easier with repetition. So the more you do it, the better it is. I think this kind of dovetails into this next question really well too. Like, how do I know if my clients are happy and getting the results that I promised? Doing exactly what we just said, right? Like we said, as you're going through the journey, you're choosing different points where you're like a 6-month program, at least once a month, you should be checking in on like, are we on track? Is this a trajectory, right? If you're doing a shorter program, like every 3 months, you might want to check in every 2 weeks or maybe even every week and like checking on, this is where we were trying to go. How are we, like, we're a third of the way through, or are we a third of the way on the journey?
Yeah.
If not, what do we need to do? Right. So you're the one who knows the results. You're the one who knows what it takes to get those results. The client doesn't. So, you know, you're guiding them along, you're educating them. They don't know what it's going to take. So if you're not communicating, if you're not gathering that data, if you're not tracking it to see if what you promised is actually happening, you're not going to know. So you have to bake those touch points into your success plans.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know and you laugh about this, but everybody that's in my 6-month entrepreneurial glow up program gets sick in between the 4 and 8 week mark. Everybody gets either a cold or a flu or a body ache or a this or a that. And it's literally your mind, body, and spirit detoxing from all the bullshit, like, habits that you have. And it's getting through, like, you can't do this old shit and this new shit anymore. You have to let go of the old shit. Right. So I tell everybody when they're getting ready to work with me, I say, hey, by the way, you're going to get sick between these 2 points in time. I'll help you get through it. Don't worry. I'm not going to abandon you or anything. It's not going to be worse than anything you've ever experienced in your life. It's going to be kind of a pain in the ass because you don't want to feel like shit right then and there. But it's like the thing that finally makes you realize forward is the only way.
Yeah. Well, and that is so awesome too, though. And that's the point of when you have a specific program like that is going a certain way and you're tracking and like you start noticing patterns like that people are getting sick in this time frame. And when you tell people that in the onboarding to expect that and then it happens, they think you are magic, right? It's just like, holy crap, how did you know?
Yep.
Right? Like I'll be talking with people, like especially coaches, and they'll be talking about their like group coaching program that they, were like, and like, I can tell immediately. I'm like, so your clients aren't getting the result. You're having to do a lot of one-on-one calls. You're struggling to get people to show up. Right. And they're like, yeah, how did you know? And it's like, you're doing this type of coaching and it's not the type where people are going to want to be in a group sharing their dirty laundry. So this is how that goes. Every single time, right? Like we even had that experience with yours because you had a little kind of group coaching thing to start with. And I was like, well, how is this going and this going, this going? Started looking at the hours you were putting in. And you're just like, you made some changes and made it more profitable. But then all the things that I was saying was going to happen started happening.
Yeah.
And it's like you get to be kind of almost psychic with people because you see what's going to happen. You see it happen every single time that there's these points. It's like the troll thing. Like when we predict you're going to get a troll.
Yeah.
And it happens and they're like, oh, how did you know? How did you know? Right.
It's like the only thing that we don't know is the scale at which it's going to happen, right? Some people, when they get sick in my program, just get a headache for a couple of days. And some people are like, holy shit. I found out I had one client who actually had the flu and scarlet fever, like some weird shit that I hadn't heard, like that people got in the 1800s and something else altogether. And I was like, wow, that's a lot. But guess what that person had been doing? They had been clinging to the old shit while trying to do the new shit. And you simply can't. You have to pick one or the other. That's why your body goes through this huge detox process of like, I can't do it anymore. Choose one or the other, right? So, it's nice, but
it's changed too. I mean, I know like after I started working with you, like how I eat, how I drink, the types of supplements and stuff that I take to support myself, how my bedtime routines change. Like you are shifting every single part of your routine and your body and like it's all changing. And like, it's going to have to, your body's going to rebel for a little bit. It's kind of like when I don't know, like people who are really addicted to like caffeine all the time, right? They're sitting here drinking like, chain chugging sodas, Dr. Peppers. I don't know what it is with Dr. Peppers, but it's usually Dr. Peppers or Mountain Dews.
Yeah.
I have no idea what's in them, but almost everybody that's like going nutballs with sodas, it's one of the two. And, you stop doing that. And if you're drinking 6 Mountain Dews a day and you all of a sudden stop drinking 6 Mountain Dews a day, you don't feel good.
No, you don't. You don't.
You have a period where your body has to adjust. And when you start working with you and you start caring about yourself and how you feel, you start noticing like, oh, when I eat that, I don't really feel too good.
Yep.
I don't but when I eat this, like I feel great. Protein in the morning is one of the huge ones. Protein in the morning. They're just starting to get some more protein in the AM. David started making me my little shaky shakes in the morning. They're full of protein. And it's like, that changes everything. My brain is clearer. I wake up easier. It's better. It's good times, right? So it shifts. You're changing stuff about your body, about your routines, about what you're doing. There is an adjustment. But it's a good one. Yeah. Good one. All right, we had one last question, so I'm going to squeeze it in real quick, and then we'll wrap it up for today. So when is the right time to present an upsell or another offer?
Well, in my program, I start talking to, because we meet every other week for 6 months. So I start telling them on their Google Doc that we keep together that has the agenda for every call. I'll say, here's the agenda. And then we have 4 calls left. So in the next call, we're going to talk about this and this and this and our options moving forward, right? Because I do have what I call a graduate program that not everybody is right for, right? So that way I'm in control of their next steps. So making sure that they know, okay, well, in next week's call, we're going to talk about this, this, and this, and our options to work together moving forward, la, 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 la. So start dropping it in. It's kind of like when you're a server or a bartender, you want to ask your guest if they want another drink before they're done with the drink.
Yeah.
You go in there and that 1/2 to a third way through, because then by the time you bring the next drink, they're ready for it.
Well, and they have time to assess their options as well. So like if you're not entering into the conversation as an option, they may not know that you even have another thing.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like if you don't start letting them know, like you don't really advertise your graduate program because you only want people to get into it that have been in your 6 month. So they don't really know it exists. If you don't start talking to them about it, they're not going to know. Right.
Yeah.
And that's going to be true a lot of times. Like people may have like learned a lot of your offers and learned what you do before they picked the one thing that they bought. But that doesn't mean by the time they get to the end of that one thing that they remember what all those were. And if you leave them to their own devices, they know that it's coming to an end. They know that there's 4 sessions left. They're going to start looking for what the next thing is on their own. Right. And I think this is the really important thing for people to understand when it comes to upsells or offers. We are not just stacking offers just because we want to keep someone paying us money for longer. That is not the point.
Not it.
It should always be a continuation of the journey. It's the next step. It's the thing that makes sense.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a next thing that makes sense, you have 2 options. Either you do bid them on their merry way and you say like, let's stay in touch. I'd love to check in with you in like 3 months, which is a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Check in with past clients on a regular basis. That'll help you get more referrals. It might help them come back and maybe they're like, yeah, I would love to just maybe book some a little bit more time with you because I've been working on this on my own and I'm not really doing what I want to do. So you can make a little bit extra money that way. But it's a good idea to kind of stay in touch with people and either wish them on their merry way and just stay in touch or find a referral partner. Find somebody who likes people at that stage. Like when I get them to here, I can't help anymore. I don't want to help anymore. They need more. Here's what they're trying to do. Who is the best person to continue moving them forward? And then again, that can be extra revenue streams. You don't always have to work out affiliate relationships and get commission on everything. Sometimes it can just be goodwill and like I refer to you, you refer to me. But you can negotiate those affiliate partnership deals. If you're generating a lot of clients for somebody else, like maybe you have, 2 or 3 people that graduate your program every single month and you don't have a next thing and someone else does.
Yeah.
That can generate a consistent, stream of new clients for that other person.
I do this too. I do what I call a maintenance plan for my clients. And when they leave me, if they're not right for my graduate program, they're not ready, whatever it is, then I say, well, I'm going to make, it's usually 10 points of focus, like 10 focal points of what I would have them do if they were still working with me. So this is what I would recommend you continue to work on. And they can use it as a way to get back on track when they lose their way a little bit, or a way to push forward in a direction that they were kind of uncomfortable in. And all I do is I go on to ChatGPT and I say, these are all the things that I want the person to continue working on, or that I would work on if I were them. Put it in a nice, fancy looking, good way to put it. And ChatGPT puts it all together and I send it to them. That way, when I check in with them in the future, hey, last time we talked, I had recommended that you were working on ABC. How'd that go? Right? Because then you just have the details to be continuing the conversation with them.
That's a really smart thing to include. That is called an offboarding process. And it's really good to have like a specific way that we offboard somebody and set them up for success when we're done. Right. So that can be a great time. Even in your offboarding documentation, it's a great time to say if you have any affiliate programs, referral offers, because they may want to send someone else through. That's a good point to include those in those types of little worksheets that you're sending them with. It's good to check in later on down the line. And even in your check-ins, maybe like, PS, do you know anybody else that would be a good fit? Yeah. And you can get referrals and stuff going that way. Like a lot of people leave word of mouth to accident instead of intention. Yeah. Like, I get all my business through word of mouth. Well, what do you do to create word of mouth? Nothing. It just happens. Like that sounds horrifying as a strategy for me to count on for getting new clients. Right. Yeah. So you can encourage word of mouth and then you at least have a hand in turning that into an actual strategy. So lots of good things that you can do in there. It's been a really good show. I like this. I like this so much. Now, if you liked all of this and you like learning from me and Melanie and Victoria, who is not here this week, she's on vacation, but if you like learning from all of us, we have a place where you can do that over at the Neuro-Spicy Academy with all of our courses, with other students, an online campus where you can go 24/7 to hang out with other students. So many different options available. Head over to neurospicyacademy.com to continue this, and we will see you again, same time, same place, next week, Wednesdays at 11 Eastern. Bye, guys. Happy statues.